Good evening, everyone. The time is now 6:30 and I will open our agenda briefing forum. I'd like to also note that the agenda briefing is being live streamed tonight. Welcome to councillors, staff and members of the public. I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we are meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Tonight I've received an apology from Councillor Lorna Clark. Are there any other apologies? Councillor Sutherland is running late, I believe. Great. So for the new councillors, welcome. I'll just go through quickly how an agenda briefing works. There have been some changes to the process, given that we are now live streaming the agenda briefings and ordinary council meetings. Firstly, we will hear from deputations in the order that they appear in the agenda. Given that the meeting is being live streamed, other deputies will not be required to leave the chamber. We will then take questions from elected members on the item subject of the deputation. We'll then take questions on any other items on the agenda, and wherever possible, responses will be provided tonight. However, in the event that additional information is required, a written response to questions taken on notice will be provided to all elected members prior to the meeting the next week. So I'll move on to the...
Madam Presiding Member, I just have a quick question. With the changes to deputations, how is it going to be managed in terms of the second speaker having an opportunity to rebut a first speaker's deputation if they're on opposing sides?
Yeah, I'll pass that to the CEO.
Yeah, thank you. Through the Chair. It is an issue that we're working through as to how we'll ensure that that doesn't occur. Obviously, deputations tonight won't be an issue, but we will have a draft framework to address that for next round of meetings. Tonight, obviously, not an issue in relation to the deputations. We've got one written and one in person, but we are addressing that.
Thanks. So I'll move to the first deputation for tonight, and that is from... I'll ask Miss Michelle Slater to come up to the microphone. And that is for item, in relation to item 10.3.3. Good. Thank you. And I'll just remind you, it is being live streamed.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I have a presentation. Did you receive my presentation?
Yes.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor and councillors, for allowing this deputation. My name is Michelle Slater, and as the Chair of the Bayswater Women's Hub, I am genuinely pleased to be here tonight and see such a gender diverse group leading the city. I'd also like to acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nations on whose lands we meet tonight. The Bayswater Women's Hub is a grassroots non-profit established by locals and for locals. Our mission is to provide access to tools and workshop facilities in a community space and facilitate the exchange of knowledge between cultures, generations and capabilities. Our vision is to empower the women of Bayswater and beyond. We aim to achieve this via two initiatives, a community tool library and separately a women's workshop. I wanted to take the opportunity to thank the City for awarding us the Better Bayswater grant, which was used to run a pilot tool skills program for women. Because we don't yet have a location for the women's workshop, we held this pilot at the Rise, where our volunteers had to lug in specialised tables, tools and other heavy equipment. At the program, we partnered with the Rana House to have our female tradesperson volunteers teach basic handyperson skills to single mums who are fleeing domestic violence, so they can make repairs themselves in their new homes. Feedback from the program was overwhelmingly positive. It was described as life-changing by more than one of the participants. During the workshops, I watched participants transform from hesitant and apprehensive to joyous and confident as they picked up power tools and felt the accomplishment of learning a new skill that had always felt a little bit off limits. It was a genuinely moving experience and we are grateful for your support. There was so much community interest in the pilot, but we just don't have the space to fulfil that community need. Our vision for this location is to run programs and sessions, that is, the Madeline's Interpretive Centre, to run programs and sessions for community members on a range of topics and to continue the work we achieved in the pilot. Bayswater Women's Workshop would be one of the first women's sheds in Australia, where residents can come together and we can continue the good work of teaching tool skills and otherwise upskilling local residents in a safe and welcoming for-purpose environment. The knock-on impacts of such initiatives to the community are undeniable, and we're all well aware of them from men's sheds, including mental health, sense of well-being, building community resilience and strengthening social connections across strata. There exists nothing like it in the city, and we hear over and over from residents that it's something that they've wanted for years, so there's a real gap. I come to you tonight to express my disappointment in the assessment and recommendation for the Maylands Interpretive Centre, recommending that it be instead offered to commercial businesses on a peppercorn lease ahead of proactive and engaged community group. It is objectively clear that operating the Bayswater Women's Workshop from that location would yield a better social return on investment for the city when compared with paddleboarding or picnicking business, yet we scored less in both community benefit and strategic alignment. We wholly disagree with the assessment and encourage councillors to read the original submission to get a better understanding of why we disagree, which is quantifiable and objective. The city's recently drafted community recreation plan specifically noted a lack of female participation in community groups as being an issue the city needs to address. I'm therefore deeply frustrated looking at the results of the assessment. How can a paddleboarding business be more strategically aligned to the City of Bayswater than the Bayswater Women's Hub? We are offering you a purpose-built solution to community-specific problems that you have identified. You'll note on the next slide, that one of our strategic pillars is around environmental outcomes, which we scored 3 out of 10 for. Our volunteers donated countless hours to the Native Plants to Residents program in that regard as well. When we missed out on the last lease we applied for with the city, it was with the knowledge that we at least lost out to an amazing charity. The council gave us a commitment at that time that they would work with us to find a place to house the workshop. But if we're being ranked third against a stand-up paddleboarding business and a commercial picnic provider in the utilisation of this space, we are left wondering if the benefits that we offer are recognised and valued by the city. The board and volunteers asked me as a result of this outcome if there is even a space for our women's workshop here, and will there ever be? In conclusion, I implore the council to take a common sense approach to the award of this lease. We ask that you award the lease to the organisation and initiative which will have the most impact in the community and provide the best social return on investment. Thank you.
Thank you for your deputation. Before I open up questions for councillors, does anyone have a conflict to declare on this item? No conflict? Do any councillors have questions of the deputy? Councillor Earhart, Deputy Mayor.
Hi, thank you. I just want to start by saying that I absolutely love what you guys are doing. Well done. I do have questions, just in terms of if you were to be successful in this lease. I obviously am very familiar with this area and the use of power tools and music and stuff in what is a very quiet area. How would you propose that you would manage that?
Well, my understanding, it's next to the boat building yard, so there's already a little bit of noise in that area. It's very much back from residents, but we held this in the rise and we know what the noise level was. It's not actually drilling the entire time. Most of it is talking about the tools, learning about them, and it's mostly not power tools. There's hand tools and things like that. So I don't actually anticipate. Despite that, we have, if you have a look in the application, we've got a program to engage all of the neighbours and bring them in on this and make sure they've always got a number to call if there was any noise complaints.
Great, thank you.
No worries.
Any further questions? Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Thank you, Michelle, for coming tonight. Just a few questions. First of all, how many members do you already have?
So because we don't have a physical location, we haven't really opened up our membership. I think at last count it was about 25.
Okay.
I want to say 30,
That's okay.
but that's just on the basis of the volunteers that we had to bring in as members to get their insurance on board. But we have literally not opened up to membership until we have an offering to provide.
Can you elaborate on what has happened so far since you originally applied, I think, for 411 Guildford Road, right? Am I
Oh gosh, no.
was
It
at the
was the
building that-
family centre on Murray Street.
Okay.
There's the first one.
Okay.
So during that time, we have done a lot of community engagement. We have engaged a lot of local tradesperson who are females as well, so that can be female-led organisations, programs. We've designed those programs and built up some of our risk analysis and that kind of profile. We've been progressing with things like a risk work stream and a work stream for engaging the public and that kind of thing. So there's been a lot of governance type stuff as well that we had to get off the ground.
So I was actually more interested to understand the conversations with the city on finding a location, a venue.
Oh, so we were shown a lot of locations, but the problem is with our insurance, we can't share location. We have to have somewhere we can lock. It has to be, so we were open to sharing potentially as long as we had our own space where we could lock up, and there just was not anything like that in the city. So, yeah.
But I understand from you that no venue was found, has
No.
been found so far.
No.
Okay. Just final question. This is a specific location here with the Mellons Interpretive Centre, which is near the river. For the purpose of your group, there is really not a need to be in such a location, right?
I think it adds additional, it's true, but it adds additional benefit. Like when I did the inspection and thought about the demographic of people who might end up being there, because it's about mental health, when you arrive at that location, it really changes your emotional state. And I really thought that was a really a great benefit where people could go there if they just want to have a chat with someone, they're not feeling the best in a mental health way, they can just go rock up there and have a chat with someone and have a cup of tea and just look out at the river. So there's also space there for us to potentially have, other things like potentially have a community garden and tend the garden that's already in existence there. There's things that we have, so there is a fit for purpose aspect of it, which it ticks the box on, but there's actually other benefits that it provides in that area in terms of the residents who are right there, who are, we're expecting to engage with it, and especially because of the feel of the location.
Thank you.
No worries.
Any other questions? No, thank you for your deputation.
Thank you.
Councillors, we've received one other deputation. It is in relation to item 10.3.3 from Miss Yvonne Larson, who is the owner-operator of Naughty Picnics. She submitted a written deputation and it is on your desks. So I'll now move on to the items which councillors have indicated they have questions on. Oh, sorry, do councillors have any questions to the officers on that item? We can deal with that now.
Okay. Yeah, I just had a couple of general questions, just I wanted fleshed out. Because I noticed in there that there is in some of the finer detail with what's permissible on that space, it says that there is the potential for further expansion. And I'm just wondering if anybody, and I can take this on notice, in terms of the heritage aspects of the site with the original well that's there, and if this is one of the First Nations artefact sites, because I was under the impression that that was. So have we done any, are we aware of any of that? Have we done any studies on that part in terms of any further development there? And I suppose the follow-on would be is that if the jetty one goes through, what impact that would have in terms of that aspect of the site. Once again, happy to take that on notice if nobody can answer now.
Sure. Through the chair, I'd ask the community leasing officer to provide as much information as possible, and anything else we can't provide information on, we'll take on notice.
Okay. The other things I just wanted to ask in this one is, could I have like I can see the matrix there, which just jumped off my screen, apologies. With the matrix, can I have just a bit of better understanding on how some of those scores were achieved?
Through the chair, we'll ask the community leasing officer to provide information on that.
And then the last one, if I can get back to this item, sorry, just bear with me just one moment. iPad is not behaving tonight. There we go. There was one other question there. Oh yes, in terms of one of those meeting the commercial and the other three meeting the community aspect of it, or the not-for-profit category, I should say, or sporting recreational group. I'm interested in this discussion there around the commercial one about where it says the DPLC would take over, basically rescind the management agreement with the city, and they would just take over the site then. If that were to happen, what does that actually mean? Once again, I'm happy to take that on notice because that's probably a more detailed question.
Through the chair, probably take that one on notice. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Yeah, I have several questions, but I'm not sure if they also will all be taken on notice. So the first one is with regards to the Bayswater Women's Hub. So I'd be interested to know what happened from the city's perspective since that time when they applied for a venue. What has happened since? Are we able to find them a venue? And if not, why not? When are we expecting to find a venue for them because of obviously the great work that they are doing and they want to do? What's the prospect? So council can understand, what are we waiting for, a new building or for a different lessee to, what's going to happen?
Through the chair, I think there's a fair bit of detail on that one, councillor, so we'll take that one on notice. Thank you.
Okay. With regard, on page 264, there is some discussion about naughty picnics, and the report mentions that based on this, the city can consider pursuing naughty picnic submission independently. So what does that mean, independently? So they will not be able to use that building and the city will look for a different building? What?
Through the chair, if we can get the community leasing officer to provide a response on that, that'd be good.
Just at the microphone.
I think there's a couple of Councillor Earhart's questions to be answered as well.
So through the chair, with regards to naughty picnics, majority of their submission referred to the use of the riverbank and the construction of a temporary jetty. So based on that, their activities, well, their key activities wouldn't necessarily take place in the building, which is solely what we are looking to lease at this point in time. The Department of Planning, Lands and Heritage has advised that there is the potential to do a ground lease, which would involve excising a portion of land on the riverbank. So the city could look to potentially pursue that outside of the expression of interest for the interpretive centre.
Okay, so just a follow-up question, this one. So from what I understand, and I did get a call from the applicant from Naughty Picnic, who explained to me that they applied to have the list for the building because that will be the office and where they will do the training and sessions. So they did apply for the building, not just for the land and the river aspect. So on that one, what I mean independently, are we going to build a new building for them? So they need a building.
So through the chair, the permitted use of that space is for recreational purposes. So the use of the building wouldn't be in line with office space. However, they're also affiliated with Subtonics, who is the recommended candidate for the lease. They do have the ability to sublease with the city's permission, which would then potentially allow for Naughty Picnics to use the building as office space as well.
Okay, so on that one, so the option to sublease is will be an option,
Yes,
right?
that's correct. Yes.
Even though it's going to be a commercial, so Naughty Picnic is a commercial and SUP is a sporting and recreational group. So Subtonic will be able to sublease it to commercial entity
Yes, that's correct. With the city's permission, they are able to do that under the current lease agreement.
under the $1 rent, or whatever it is, the $1. So that will not prevent them. I'm just want to make sure.
No, that would
Will
not prevent them.
Even though we're renting it to in whatever $1 rent for a year or whatever, still we'll be able to sublease it to a commercial entity.
Yes, that's correct.
How often would Subtonic going to use the building?
Subtonic have listed that they would potentially use the building 7 days a week. Hours may vary on weekends, though, depending on how many bookings they would have.
So when we're saying 7 days a week, talking about the whole day, it was my understanding it will be just sessions here and there. So
They would also use the space with a subgroup that they currently have, which involves a meeting of people who use donated yarn to crochet blankets. And then they use that to raise funds for charitable organisations from there. So they would also be using the building in conjunction with Subtonics.
thank you for that. Just a last question, if I can. With regards to the other applicant, Matthew McVeigh, so what is the possibility that we will be able to find a Maylands local who is artist and requires a space and has been using that space for many years? What is there any possible venue to provide that person?
If I may, through the chair, there is a meeting tomorrow that we've got with the ladies' tool group that are looking at utilising Shern Park. There is a sort of a storage bunker on the Oval, which I've got a meeting there tomorrow with John Vines and representative from the group there to look at that for storage of their tools. And there's a small kiosk at the top at the change rooms, which they're probably looking at for like an office.
So you are looking at that venue and then you will discuss it.
Yeah, that we're looking at tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Any further questions?
Sorry,
Deputy
just,
Mayor?
just some follow-up ones.
Thank you.
Sorry, just some follow-up ones, because, sorry, you were saying that with Naughty Picnics, sorry, that the building use has to be for recreational, that the office use, but I'm seeing here with the Subtonic that they're proposed to use the building as an office-based headquarters, so that's an office-based use as well, so the disparity with that. And then I'm wondering why, if that's a key element requirement of the lease, if that has to be recreational, why it's not in the matrix at all as one of the key comparators. I'm happy to take that on notice.
Yeah, I'll take that on notice, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The other thing I wanted to ask as well, just following on from this meeting that's going to be occurring on Thursday, it's related, but yeah. Is there a possibility then, if Matthew McVeigh is still looking for a place, that we can look at because we do have several facilities around that could possibly be used, and I'm thinking immediately of Bath Street, where we've got, there's an old kiosk and change area there, which has been not used since 86 or 88 or something like that. Is there the potential there for something to occur where a small community, because I know that this facility that's up is not particularly big, and it's probably similar-ish size, where that could be considered for some of these people? Or in this instance, an individual operator?
Through the chair, we'll take that on notice.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? No? Okay. So the next item that has been pulled is item 10.4.6, proposed amendment to Town Planning Scheme number 24 Lawrence Street, Bedford. And Councillor Johnson, you have a question? And, oh, sorry, before you ask, can I ask if anyone has any interest on this item? No, go ahead.
Thank you. So I just want to kind of understand a little bit more about the process. So do all the residents living there aware of it now, or are we going out to them now to say this is what we're thinking of doing.
Go to the director.
Through the chair, my understanding is they do, but I'll get the principal to confirm that.
Thank you.
Through the chair, we haven't actually spoken with the landowners on this one yet. We'd be going out to speak with them as the next step in this process.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions on this item? No? Okay, that's the only ones I've been informed of. Do any councillors have any other items that they... Councillor Peterson-Pick? Yep, which item?
Yes, I apologise. I just realised that there was an email was sent to us a bit later, so I didn't get a chance to flag. So item 10.2.8,
10.2.8.
item 10.2.9, and 10.2.12. So that's it.
Okay, so before we open up to questions, item 10.2.8, application for a donation, the Perth Bayswater Rugby Club. Does anyone have a conflict? Councillor Bull? Excuse me, Councillor.
I'd like to declare an impartiality interest on 10.2.8. I played for Perth Bayswater Rugby Club for one season in under 13s. I'll stay in the room.
Okay, thank you.
That's for you, Mr. CEO.
Any other conflicts? Councillor Sutherland?
The same item. I just wanted to say I know some of the members, so it's impartial.
And you'll be staying in the room?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Peterson-Pick?
Just two quick questions. The first one, I was wondering whether the club received any other donations or funding assistance during the last 5 years or 10 years, so we can get a full picture.
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, I'll take that one on notice and bring that back to you.
Thank you. The second question, how much are they paying for their lease at the moment? Like is it $1 like all the other ones, or?
Through the chair, I'm pretty confident it's $1, but I'll confirm that to you.
Yeah, how many,
Yeah,
like utilities, everything, the
yeah,
whole company?
utilities, yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on this item? No. Okay, so the next one is item 10.2.9, appointments to statutory committees. Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Yes, I just wanted to receive some clarification about the difference between the Audit and Risk Management Committee and what used to be the budget one, and now it changed a name to the performance, what is this? The Corporate Performance Reporting Committee. So it does mention in the terms of reference, so for example, on page 135, when it talks about the purpose of the Audit and Risk Management Committee, it talks about the annual budget as one of the responsibilities, and that also a core aim of the Corporate Performance Reporting Committee. So just a clarification, which one is going to deal with the budget, or there are different elements?
Go through to the director.
Excuse me, through the chair. So the Audit and Risk Committee is a statutory requirement and deals with specific parts of the Act, so we're required to have that. The Budget Review Expenditure Committee had been used to review and analyse expenses throughout the year, so it was a discretionary committee of council. The budget itself will be dealt with through the normal process of budget workshops with councillors and subsequent approval at the relevant council meeting. And the proposed corporate performance reporting one is to address the integrated planning framework and the elements of that contained within that, because what had happened in the past, a number of issues relating to integrated planning were being brought to the Audit and Risk Committee, and the aim is to make the Audit and Risk Committee deal specifically with the requirements of the Act.
So I'm not sure if I received a response, sorry. So on page 169, it clarifies the purpose of the Corporate Performance and Reporting Committee, and one of them is annual budget. You can see the top 169, I just don't want to have two committees dealing with the same topic. That's the bottom line. So 169, at the top, you have all the dot points. And the last one is annual budget. And if you go on page 135, in the middle, there is purpose and role of the Audit and Risk Management Committee. And second line, it says annual budget financial reporting. So do we have duplication here? That's the question.
So through the chair, no, I don't believe that it's duplication. The Audit and Risk Committee will deal with the specific statutory requirements of putting a budget together to ensure that we're complying with legislation. The Corporate Performance Reporting Committee will deal with the input into that budget and I guess in assisting with the development of that budget and understanding the components of it. But the statutory part will still go through, be discussed at the Audit and Risk Committee.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions on this item? No? So the next item we move to is item 10.2.12, Councillor Complaints Policy. I'll just ask if anyone has a conflict. No? So Councillor Peterson-Pick?
Yes, thank you. So the proposed policy here suggests the use of an investigator. And my question is, which other councils, for example, adopted a similar approach? And the follow-up question, what other approaches have been adopted by other councils if it's not going with an investigator? So what's the alternatives? Because the report doesn't provide us any alternative, just one option. What are the other options that other councils around the Perth Metro have done?
Go to the director, the CEO.
Yeah, thank you, through the chair. I know there's been a couple of different approaches taken by councils. We'll provide a summary of the high-level overview of what they've done rather than all their policies. Certainly, some councils have gone independent to take that investigation process away from officers. Other councils are dealing with it slightly differently, but I'll provide a summary before next week.
Yes, thank you. It would be great if we can get all the options with examples. So just to clarify the cost of the investigator, just to make sure that I understood correctly. So each complaint can cost up to $10,000.
Through the chair, the advice that I've received from other councils is somewhere between about $5,000 and $7,500 per investigation, depending on what the issue is. The reality of it is, at the moment, we don't have any budget allocation for it, which means I can't actually engage anyone to undertake an investigation of complaints that are received. We need to actually process that, which is why we're suggesting a budget amount. And then if that amount got expended during the year, then we'd have to come back and make another budget review. But it is about providing some funding there if council was to adopt the policy in this format. If council comes up with an alternate format, then we'd have to review the financial implication of that as well.
So it can cost up to $7,500, roughly.
Through the chair, based on advice from other councils, that's sort of the dollar figure that they're looking at.
Okay. Another question, on page 204 in the middle, the report mentions that the complaints officer can only receive complaints and accept withdrawals of complaints. They cannot investigate or determine complaints. So when it says they cannot, is this referring to the current state that we have in the city, or the law does not allow them to investigate?
Through the chair, at the moment, the policy that council's adopted is, and they've delegated authority to me as the complaints officer to receive and withdrawal of complaints, and that's the extent of it at this point in time.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other questions on this item? No? Okay. That's the end of questions. So before I close the agenda briefing forum, just wanted to let councillors know that I've spoken to the CEO today in relation to the process for these agenda briefings going forward, and I propose that we discuss this at the next workshop. That's okay? And I will close the meeting now at 7:04. Thanks, councillors.